It is especially devastating as a first-generation American to watch Donald Trump's reckless, cruel, and radical policies transform this country into an authoritarian regime. Mr. Perry just mocked us for referring to Donald Trump as a dictator, so let's run through the list. Donald Trump has, since he was inaugurated, pardoned violent January 6 insurrectionists. Dictator. Defied Supreme Court orders and attacked the judiciary. Dictator. Unilaterally abolished congressionally chartered federal agencies. Dictator. Attacked the free press. Sounds like a dictator. Kidnapped people off of the streets and deported them to foreign prisons without due process. Sounds like a dictator. Defunded higher education. Dictator. Threatened law firms and the legal profession. Dictator. Is this North Korea? On top of all of that, our twice impeached president with a 34-count convicted felony president who is not a king has deployed the active duty military in American cities, and he has spent $134 million to do so.
But then he goes on television and says, oh, Trump is a dictator, he's a dictator. And a lot of people have so the line is that I'm a dictator, but I stop crime. So a lot of people say, you know, if that's the case, I'd rather have a dictator. But I'm not a dictator. I just know how to stop crime. I have a guy in Illinois, the governor of Illinois, saying that crime has been much better in Chicago recently, and Trump is a dictator. And most people say, if you call him a dictator, if he stops crime, he can be whatever he wants. I'm not a dictator, by the way, but he can be whatever he wants.
The fact that the president is making this super obvious and easily predictable pivot toward authoritarianism isn't really news, albeit terrifying. Many of us have predicted this, including someone of particular note. Take a look.
To be clear, these are not the words of a president. These are the words of a dictator. He talked about dominating the streets. You know, domination is just another way of saying supremacy, and that is part of the theme of who Donald Trump is. And that is, after a long career in running for office and being president, where he has spent full time trying to sow hate and division. But the fact that he is the commander-in-chief, threatening the American people with the American military, prepared to use the military against its own people, that's not the sign of a commander-in-chief.
But God forbid we believe a black woman for once. Okay, America. At any rate, Donald Trump is living up to his promise that he made to be a dictator on day one, and he's proven his detractors absolutely correct. But take a look at the spin some of his sycophants and lackeys are trying to pull off by justifying this attempt to overthrow our system of government.
You know, during the cabinet meeting, the president spoke specifically about how low the approval ratings are for that mayor in the city of Chicago, that his own people don't support him or what he's saying because he cares only about politics. He doesn't care about their safety. So that's what I think is so remarkable about what's going on right now in this country with Democrats opposing crime prevention. They literally are fighting President Trump, who's just trying to keep their people safe. So President Trump reiterated today over and over again throughout the cabinet meeting that he will keep America safe, that he will continue to do what he needs to do in these cities that are overridden with criminals and terrorists and people who are harming the citizens that live there. He's going to go there and help them keep as safe as he possibly can, and he's going to do everything he can to fight these liberal, socialist, terrible leaders that are in these cities that are harming their individuals.
Congressman, you, of course, are the neighbor of Chicago. You guys are right there together. What do you make of everything that you're seeing in the Windy City?
Yeah, I'm in Chicago all the time. I mean, it's certainly, I think, no secret to anyone that watches Chicago media on a regular basis that unfortunately the first couple of stories on local news is always about somebody either being certainly the subject of criminal activity or unfortunately the high murder rate. So I think what President Trump is doing is not only, I think, sending a message, but certainly I think is now having kind of a very practical application to what some of these mayors have been unable to do, which is to kind of pull together what they think would be a good mix of of local policing and federal law enforcement to try and curb these. And what President Trump is doing in D.C. has now become very quickly a blueprint for what I think we should see in some of these other urban areas that for decades we have just seen these statistics and numbers related to crime that have just been out of control.
Crime an issue in some of our major cities across this country? Absolutely. But for the most part, it's a complex problem that will require multiple solutions. But ain't none of them allowing this wannabe dictator to militarize our country in a very thinly veiled attempt to emulate some of his heroes like Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, and Xi Jinping. The country is unsafe, so therefore I'm going to step all over the Constitution, use the military like my own private police force, and probably run for a third term if, of course, whatever's swelling my ankles up like a balloon doesn't kill me first. Based on the reaction of these Republicans, surely crime must be skyrocketing at an unprecedented level. Surely there must be utter bedlam going on all across America to allow for these patriotic GOP senators and congresspeople and cabinet members to completely abandon their oaths of office and subvert federal law to allow Donald Trump to do these crazy things. Surely crime statistics must be going up.
New data from hundreds of law enforcement agencies nationwide shows crime is down across the country compared to the same time last year. Overall, reported incidents of violent crime have dropped to 65,000 for the first 2 months of 2025. That's more than 13% lower than from the same time last year, according to the Real-Time Crime Index, which tracks nationwide crime trends. Murders are down by more than 20% for the same time period compared to last year. These numbers follow a downward trend that could be attributed to an increase in government spending in areas like public safety and support for law enforcement. Experts who track crime are now concerned that cuts to federal funding could undermine those gains.
Whoops. I would have lost that bet. And it seems like crime is going down despite the president's efforts. And I know you will have a difficult time believing that some cuts that the president made were reckless and counterproductive. Well, counterproductive, of course, if your goal was to make American cities safer. Not counterproductive if you were looking for an excuse to crown yourself king.
What is your response to the president calling Baltimore, as he put it there, a hellhole?
Well, the president seems to be obsessed with me. Today he called me a beauty, and when I first met him, he just talked about how I was a good-looking guy. And now he just continues to make statements that are just flat out false about our state's largest city. The reality is that when I first became the governor, Baltimore in 2022 had about a homicide a day. Now, in the past 2.5 years, Baltimore and the state of Maryland have had amongst the fastest drops in violent crime anywhere in the United States. The last time the homicide rate was this low in Baltimore City, I was not born yet. And that's why I invited him to come to Baltimore, to come be educated, to come learn, so he doesn't have to spout nonsense from the Oval Office and things that are just blatantly not true about what is actually happening and the work that's happening in coordination to make people feel safer in their neighborhoods.
Does that invitation still stand?
That invitation still stands. I would love for the President of the United States to actually come and learn. I would love to be able to introduce him to our violence interrupters that are on the ground, groups like We Are Us that are on the ground doing the work. I would love for him to come spend time with the mayor of Baltimore, to go learn about the things we actually need. For example, if the president really wanted to not spend $1 million a day on something that is theatrical, actually spend that time and put those resources and that money into things like license plate readers. Put that money into things like making sure that we can put more cops on the beat, and that we could also make sure we have more community violence interrupters and they're getting the supports they need.
Look, does Donald Trump give a piss about safety in these big cities? Probably not. He cares that they are more often than not Democratic strongholds that are also more often than not populated by a majority people of color, black and brown people. And fundamentally, that doesn't sit right in his system. He doesn't like that D.C. has a black mayor. He doesn't like that Maryland has a black governor. He doesn't like any of these facts. So his solution to being petty, small, and racist is to do what he can to strong arm those communities into going along with his narratives and going along with his attempt to crown himself dictator for life. Hopefully it will not work. Crime is a multifaceted issue. It's a complex circumstance that involves multiple things. It's not just one thing, and correspondingly, it will require multiple complex solutions. Donald Trump ain't no complex solution kind of guy. He's a speak loudly and carry a great big old stick and wield it stupidly kind of guy. Deploying the National Guard in D.C. to not fight crime, but to do something else equally important. Most of this will not come as news to you. I mean, these intimations of Donald Trump being a dictator have been percolating for a long, long time. I mean, he has written love letters to Kim Jong-un. He has called Putin a genius. He's called Xi Jinping a genius. The man fundamentally does not value our system of government. He's toying with the prospect of running for a third term. He's subverting due process when it comes to deporting undocumented immigrants, sometimes documented immigrants, and sometimes United States citizens. The question is, what will we do about it? When he's making statements in the Oval Office suggesting that some people want to see him a dictator, and when polling shows that over half Republicans in this nation would like to see him run for a third term without providing some sort of nexus as to which he could do that, because the Constitution clearly says that you cannot run for 2 terms. So they were perfectly willing for him to just ignore it when he's ignoring federal courts. All this is boiling down to, what will we do about our president wanting to become a dictator? It's not hyperbole. I mean, then Senator Harris predicted it way back in 2017 or 18, and many of us have been sounding the alarm. But it's going to come down to MAGA. MAGA's going to have to wake up when they see this president beholden to Israel, and this president beholden to his other donors. And more importantly, when this president is beholden to the crazy voices in his head that tells him that he can too be like Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, and Xi Jinping.